Manual versus automatic cars, which are better? Cars come in many different varieties. From options in drivetrains like front-wheel drive and four-wheel drive to choices in engine type like conventional gas and electric, the possibilities are endless when shopping for a new vehicle. Another key decision you have to make when buying a car is what type of transmission to get. Modern vehicles come in two different transmission types, automatic or manual. In a manual transmission, the driver is responsible for shifting the gears, while in a vehicle with an automatic transmission, the car does the shifting for you. So the question becomes, to shift or not to shift? Manual cars. When you drive, for your car's engine to work efficiently, it needs to change gears to accommodate your speed. As you drive faster, you move into a higher gear. This is true of both manual and automatic cars. The main difference between an automatic car and a manual car is that a manual has 3 pedals: the brake, the accelerator, and the clutch. The driver presses the clutch while manually changing gears using the gearbox. Automatic cars change gears, too, but they do it automatically. Most British drivers learn to drive in manual cars. This is because manual cars are still the most common type of car in the UK, especially when it comes to smaller cars, though automatics are rising dramatically in popularity, according to Phil Tromans, senior road tester at Auto Trader. Most volume cars and smaller cars are still manual, but larger and luxury cars are increasingly automatic focused. Personally, I'd advise people to learn in a manual if they can, says Phil. It's still the most common type of gearbox in the UK, and if you're qualified to drive a manual, then you can drive an automatic too. But it doesn't work the other way around, so drivers who learn and pass their test in an automatic car will have to upgrade their license to drive a manual. It used to be common knowledge that manual cars were cheaper and more fuel efficient. However, this isn't necessarily true today. Some modern cars are only available with automatic gearboxes, and there are different types of automatic that use different technology. Some are more efficient than the equivalent car with a manual transmission, and some aren't, says Phil. These days, manual gearboxes are also sometimes associated with high-performance or luxury vehicles. But Phil doesn't believe that manual cars are particularly higher performing than automatics. It depends on the car, he says. And in terms of driver performance? What gearbox you use has no impact on how good or bad a driver you are. Many people just enjoy having more mechanical involvement in their driving. Basically, it all boils down to what you feel the most comfortable with. While I'd recommend passing your test in a manual if you can because it gives you options in the future, there's no right or wrong. It depends on what kind of car you want and what kind of driving you'll be doing. Automatic cars. An automatic car typically has 4 modes: park, reverse, neutral, and drive. Since you don't need to change gears, there's no clutch, just the brake and the accelerator. That means you essentially only need to think about whether you're going forward, backward, or stopping. The car will decide the rest. You cannot stall in an automatic car, since you don't need to choose a gear and use the clutch. So if you're driving in heavy traffic or other difficult conditions, an automatic might be the way to go. For motorway slogs, or if you want to make driving as easy as possible, then automatics can seem a preferable choice, agrees Phil. But they can sometimes cost more to buy and be more complicated to repair if anything goes wrong. Although automatic transmissions are less likely to fail because the gears shift more smoothly, when they do fail, the fix can potentially be more expensive. But it's not all bad news. There's a common misconception that all automatics, generally speaking, cost more than manuals to insure. Automatics are becoming more and more commonplace, and the cost of the technology is coming down. Martin explains that every new car gets a rating from the Association of British Insurers, which is based on extensive research into its safety and performance. This is bundled into factors about individuals' driving history, information about where they live, and so much more to calculate the driver's premium. The transmission type will be one small factor in the rating. Jim Duran, a driving instructor who teaches both manual and automatic, says he tries to stay away from the manual as much as he humanly can. According to Jim, 15 to 20 years ago there was a stigma associated with automatics, because they were a lot more expensive to buy and insure, and could be difficult to find abroad. If you went on holiday to Spain or whatever and asked for an automatic, they'd look at you like, "What are those? We only do cars," says Jim. But that's not true anymore. The world has changed. He calls the manual 20th century, and he'd call the automatic 21st century. Bottom line, unless you need to drive a manual vehicle for your job or some reason, why do it? Look, we've got Google now. Can he then persuade you to get the books out and flick through all these pages to find an answer? You'll get the same results, you'll find it, but is it harder? Of course, it's harder. So why do we not try and make life easier for ourselves? Jim also believes that automatic cars are safer to drive, though he says not everyone feels this way. It's one less thing to think about. He's a complete advocate. Quite a lot of his students are single moms, their boyfriends or husbands had left, they have 2 or 4 kids, and he had done all the driving and now they have to be a taxi service for their kids. So they have to learn to drive, and of course, they want to learn in an auto. So they might have a handful of 17-year-olds that won't, but at least half of my students now learn in an auto, and the reason they do is that by and large mom and dad have got autos in the driveway. Jim acknowledges that he teaches in an affluent part of England, which may be part of the reason automatics are more common. But he says that 50% of his client base are teenagers driving automatics when it used to be a handful 10 years ago. Some students do still learn manual, but Jim says the only reason they do is peer pressure. That's all it is. It's complete and total peer pressure. It's a manly thing. And why do people who drive manuals pressure others to learn? The only reason this bloke who's learning manual wants this person to learn manual is he wants him to suffer to the same extent as he did. Although some students who have learned in automatic cars have said they would come back and learn manual at some point in the future, none of Jim's students have ever done it. There are still reasons that a few people need to learn, so Jim will teach them, but he doesn't feel, as someone who drives an automatic professionally, that it's a choice anyone needs to make. The world's changed. They all know. He means the company runs a car hire company as well as a driving school. Yeah. Well, we've got autos now. We've got about as many autos as we've got manuals. The world has changed. The cars of the future. Martin says that, in time, automatics will probably dominate, but this change will probably be slow. Unless you're only ever going to own or drive new vehicles throughout your driving career, electing to take an autotist rather than a manual might limit your vehicle choice. But still, automatics are becoming more and more commonplace, so they're now as efficient as a manual and don't cost significantly more. When we look at hybrid cars, you'll find that tech doesn't work with a manual because the car needs to be in control of the speed range. In 2, 3, 4 years' time, when we get to the first cars which are capable of conditional automated driving, they will be automatics, because there won't be anyone to change the gears. It's hard to predict exactly what driving will look like in the future. Fully electric cars don't generally need a gearbox at all. There will definitely be a much larger proportion of electrified vehicles in the future, both hybrid and fully electric, says Phil. The source of the electricity may well change, with hydrogen fuel cell vehicles touted by many as the way forward. But there will be many factors that influence exactly what happens, from government support and infrastructure to ease of use and consumer acceptance. If you enjoyed this video, kindly press the like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe with notifications on, so that you don't miss out on videos like this. Thank you for watching.